Tonight, new video into CNN showing utter destruction in the southern Gaza city of Khan Yunis as the Israeli military conducts extensive operations there. Neighborhoods leveled and completely unrecognizable, abandoned. In the video that we have here, you don't actually see a single human being. It comes as Israel's far-right finance minister is slamming President Biden's executive order, which just came out. It targets violent Israeli settlers in the West Bank, and the minister accusing Biden of cooperating with a, quote, anti-Semitic lie spread by Israel's enemies. Out front now, the former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, who is visiting the U.S. here for just a few days. And obviously you have been on the ground in Israel since October 7th. What is your response to Biden's executive order?
Well, I think it's unnecessary. I think in Israel, we prosecute any violence, any criminal activity. We don't need any external help on doing it. And I have to say that it's marginal. What's called violence of settlers is marginal. We're talking about a 50% decrease year on year. Last year it was at,
in that violence.
In that violence. And to begin with, it's not big numbers. We're taking care of it. I think it's inflated in order to create some false symmetry between the Palestinian violence and the settler violence. So we're on top of it. We don't need any foreign assistance to prosecute that sort of thing.
So Israeli special forces conducted a raid this week at the West Bank hospital. Of course, you've seen the footage. I'm just going to play it again here. So they're disguised as civilians and medical staff. One of them even has what's sort of like a bassinet for a baby. They went in. 3 Palestinians were killed that Israel claims were terrorists, that was the point of the raid. Now, the hospital says that one of the men that was killed was receiving treatment for injuries that he suffered in a rocket attack. And there's actually footage of him in his hospital bed, obviously prior to this, with his family. When you see these images, are you comfortable with these sorts of tactics, with dressing up as civilians and going into a hospital to kill terrorists?
Well, the real question is, am I comfortable with terrorists using hospitals as their safe haven? Because we're fighting terrorists who, have no red lines, do not abide to any law, and we're held to a double standard because Hamas does whatever it wants and uses children and families as human shields. And then when we have to go target those very Hamasniks who are using the hospital as a refuge, then we're being accused of...
But this is a little bit different, at least in this case, right? If that guy's actually lying in a hospital bed injured, he wasn't using it as refuge. He was being treated for injuries.
To the best of my knowledge, we're talking about terrorists who did use the hospital as refuge, not because they were being treated. We have to look at every incident, but by and large, what we've seen in Gaza and in the West Bank, in very big numbers, is Hamas using hospitals, schools, kindergartens as refuge. That's the real problem.
Right. No, I understand.
Not 1 in 1,000 cases where we're trying to tweezer them out from where they're hiding.
Right. I understand completely what you're saying. I think everyone watching understands as well. But I do just want to push on that one point because it is so
I have
jarring.
to say, actually, it's pretty impressive, the operation, sending soldiers who have to disguise themselves within terrorists and abducting terrorists. That's what we're going to do. We have to defend ourselves.
So we'll see more of that.
We're going to see anything necessary
because there are people
to
in that
defend
hospital.
our people.
A hospital could have been women, children, people having babies. That guy, even if a terrorist
But we don't
was
target
injured.
them. We don't target them. We don't target. We never deliberately target women and children.
But that guy was also injured.
If Osama bin Laden's in a hospital and his thumb is injured, do you go in and kill him? The answer is yes.
Okay. So the UN Relief Agency in Gaza says it's going to have to suspend its relief work across the entire Middle East because, more than 20 governments now have shut down funding for UNRWA after the Israeli intelligence. You have put forth information that has been seen by these governments that 13 of the more than 13,000 Gaza employees of UNRWA were involved in the October 7th attacks. Now, Prime Minister Netanyahu says that UNRWA must be eliminated. Obviously, it does do good work in the region in other ways. Do you think it should be eliminated completely?
I think it should be disbanded for 2 reasons. One is the tactical reason that indeed dozens of its workers are terrorists who some of them went in and murdered Israelis, which is participated in this massacre. But there's something bigger than that.
Yeah.
This agency, instead of solving the refugee problem, it eternalizes the refugee problem. You see, these refugees are great-grandchildren of refugees. It's the only case in the world where refugee status is bequeathed from one generation to another. So instead of solving it, they eternalize it. You know, in the War of Independence, those Palestinians became refugees, but there were also 700,000 Jews that became refugees kicked out of Arab countries, such as Morocco, Egypt, etc. And they didn't become refugees. We absorbed them, and now they're full Israelis. So there's a goal to keep the Palestinians in misery. And I think UNRWA is part of the problem, not part of the solution.
So I understand that, but I did want to provide some specific examples, because if you do want it eliminated, then what replaces the good that it does do? I mean, we were just looking up some numbers: 140 primary health care clinics, 7 million people get annual health visits from UNRWA-operated facilities, 200 schools operated, 500,000 students educated. Now, you can quibble with the numbers here and there, but those are significant things.
Right.
You eliminate it, that goes away too.
No, so clearly we have to have those services continue, and there has to be some transitory period. We're not talking about cutting off, you know, day after day and having these Palestinians without solutions. But we have to look at an organization that became so rotten that some of its own employees went and murdered and massacred Jews, and the problem with its very mission. So there's going to be a transitory period, but we have to fix it.